and President Martinez.
Here.
You.
Thank you so much. And with that, we move to item 2, which is the approval of the agenda. So before we make a motion to approve, are there any modifications, changes of order that anybody has? Any request?
Yes, good evening, President Martinez. Good evening,
Yeah.
board members. Yeah, I'd like to, the district would like to pull 15.6, 15.7, and 15.8 for this evening, please.
And what is the reason for that?
The reason, should we talk about that right now? Is that?
No.
Okay.
So if you'd like to pull it, we'll pull it. Mhm. Okay. Any other item, any other change? Okay. So I would please entertain a motion to approve the agenda with the modifications made by Superintendent Triplett, which are the removal of items 15.6, 15.7, and 15.8.
I move to approve the agenda with without items 15.6, 15.7, 15.8.
Second.
Okay, Member Nguyen moved. I believe I heard Member Rodriguez second first. So if Ms. Rodriguez, Ms. Rodriguez, Ms. Gutierrez, if you can call for the vote, please. Are we doing this on board docs or are we doing it by hand?
We'll do this one by hand, and then upon return, I think just that way
Got it.
everybody has enough time to pull up board docs.
Perfect.
At this
Okay.
point, Member Nguyen,
Yes.
Member Jean,
Yes.
Member Rodriguez,
Yes.
and President Martinez.
Yep. Yes. Thank you. So the motion carries and the agenda is approved with the modifications made by the district staff. Okay. Do we have any item 2.2 public comment and closed session items? Do we have anything there?
None.
Okay, thank you. And so with that, we recess to closed session at 6:04 p.m. We'll see you upon return. Thank you.
Thank you.
At this point, Member Rodriguez, if you can go on to the closed session link that President Martinez sent, please.
Okay, we're not live yet, correct?
Yes, we are.
Oh, yes, okay. All right, thank you and welcome, welcome to those who are joining us for open session. We are just reconvening from closed session. It is 7 o'clock exactly. And before I do report back from closed session items, I'd like to ask everyone to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance, please. And I will ask actually our student board member, Mr. Salemi, to join us, to lead us. I'm sorry, in the pledge, is that okay? I'm sorry that I'm catching you off guard.
Yeah, that's fine. Okay. I pledge allegiance to the flag
The flag
of the United States of America and to the republic
Republic
for which it stands,
stands
one
one
nation,
nation
under God,
God,
indivisible, with liberty and justice for
justice
all.
for all. Thank you so much. Okay, and I do have one item to report on from closed session, and I'm going to try to get the verbiage right. I don't always follow along as closely as I should. In closed session with a motion from member Nguyen and a second from member Rodriguez, the board unanimously approved an agreement with and release of claims with district employee Marcus Allen for the amount of $7,203.26. And that was the only reportable action taken in closed session. Thank you. And before we move on to the next item, I just wanted to remind everyone who's joining us that there are a couple of different ways to submit public comment to us. You could either submit written public comment, and those comments are due the Wednesday preceding the Thursday board meeting. Those are due at Wednesday at 5 p.m. And when you email, please email publiccomment@newarkunified.org. And you should please write written public comment on the subject line. If you would like to provide live comment during the meeting, if you could please submit those public comments. Again, public comment Newark Unified, and the subject line should read live public comment. And those are due at by 1 p.m. the day of the meeting. And then once those are acknowledged, you will receive a link to be able to join the Zoom meeting. The other thing that you can do is to, if you're not interested in providing comment, you don't have to join the Zoom meeting. You can watch us on our YouTube channel. And just as a reminder, with in-person meetings, the board respects the right of the public to comment on board matters. The content of messages should be civil and appropriate for a public meeting of a school district governing board. Employees who are defamed by a public comment may be entitled to pursue legal action against those who engage in such speech. In compliance with the American and Disabilities Act, and upon request, individuals who require appropriate alternative modification of the agenda or accommodations in order to observe or participate in the board meetings are invited to contact Ms. Lucia Gutierrez at lgutierrez@newarkunified.org by noon on the Monday preceding the meeting. So thank you. I will try to remind again, I know all that information is on the on the website, but I like to periodically just remind folks during the live meetings. Okay, so thank you for indulging me on those announcements. And with that, we move to item 6, which is the student report. Superintendent, please.
Thank you very much, President Martinez. Good evening, board members, community, staff. So it's my honor to introduce our first student representative. And Ms. Gutierrez, do we already have all the student members in the room?
Miss Marilyn Rollins hasn't been able to join, so we're hoping she'll be able to join by the time her name comes up. But Rachel is on the list, so if Rachel can please be moved to a panelist in the meantime.
Great, thank you. So as she's coming in, so at first I'm introducing Miss Rachel Ristan. She is the Vice President of the ASP at Newark Junior High School. And we're delighted to have her here.
Hi, my name is Rachel Ristu, and I am the Newark Junior High School Vice President. And today I'm going to talk to you about what the ASB leadership class has been doing since the last report in September. Our Tech and Marketing Committee created a weekly quiz in which students are able to compete with each other and win cool prizes. Students answer a short themed quiz. Our theme this week was Disney movies. And the first 3 students to submit the correct answers will win Newark Junior High School apparel, such as sweatshirts and t-shirts. A vast amount of students took part in the quiz, and it turned out to be a huge success, and we plan to do it every week. Our activities committee has planned a Spirit Week to be the last week of October, so that way it can correspond with Halloween, and our last day, which is Friday, will be a costume contest. Our class also learned the basics of taking and editing photos so that we can begin creating the yearbook, which is the sole responsibility of our leadership class. If anyone who has a student at Newark Junior High School has any pictures from fun things they did over the summer, or if they have any pictures from the beginning of the school year, please email them to Mr. Whitaker, because we need a lot more photos in order for this to happen. And October is National Bully Prevention Month, and every year our visual arts teacher, Ms. Chavez, hosts an annual poster contest where students can create a poster displaying an anti-bully message. The winning posters will be displayed virtually this month, and that concludes my student report. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ms. Ristow. Next up, we have our student representative from Bridgepoint. Is Ms. Marilyn Rollins available yet?
Dr. Triplett, Ms. Rollins has not logged on, and Ms. Calderon did send a message that she's hoping she would be able to take a break from her job. So if she pops in, I will let you know, but as of now, she's not logged in.
Okay, thank you. We'll make space for her as she's able to make it. Lastly, but certainly not least, I'd like to introduce our very own student board member from Newark Memorial High School, Mr. Wahab Salemi.
Good evening, members of the board, executive cabinet, students, staff, and community members. There's a lot happening at Newark Memorial High School, and I'm happy to have the opportunity to share that with you all. We have started the process of getting clubs up and going at Newark Memorial High School, and we held a virtual club rush day on the 25th for representatives from each club to get the chance to make the case for why students should join their club. Students got the chance to see the different clubs offered and which ones they'd like to join. The marketing team, along with administrators, are working really hard on our new website, and I'm really proud of the work that has been done so far. We're also planning some freshman game nights. For example, Link Crew held their first game night with freshmen on the 25th, where students got the opportunity to play Kahoot. Then they went into different breakout rooms to play different games. On October 30th, we are hoping to hold a virtual Halloween assembly. The Assemblies Committee and Tech Video Committee is working super hard to get this done for our peers. They are doing an awesome job and taking charge of this project. We will be streaming this on our YouTube page, and I invite you all to watch as well. On the 28th of October, NMHS will be hosting a Halloween-inspired Wellness Wednesday event to help students focus on their mental well-being. We are also currently in the middle of our first virtual Spirit Week event of the year. Since a lot of us are not feeling 2020, we decided to travel back in time with the Decades Week. On Monday, we had 80s Day and a Kahoot trivia at lunch. Tuesday was 90s Day. Wednesday, we took it back to the early 2000s. Today is Throwback Thursday, where students recreated an old picture of themselves. Tomorrow is Futuristic Friday, and we'll also be hosting a virtual movie night where we're gonna watch Back to the Future 2. FAFSA applications are also open, and I encourage our seniors to get on that as fast as they can. Today, they're open today. On October 13th, we have our NMHS PTSA meeting. On October 27th, we have coffee with the principal. And for more information and in-depth information about what's happening at NMHS, I would direct our families that attend and their students to Ms. Rangel's weekly updates. The athletic committee will be kickstarting their social media campaign for this month, beginning today, which is going to be about breast cancer awareness. And on that note, I would like to say to all those who are going through their battle with cancer or have already had their battle with cancer to stay strong and that you got this. Speaking of athletics, Newark Memorial High School athletics is in week three of phase 1 of the return to activity plan, where fall sports students, athletes, and coaches have been participating in voluntary preseason conditioning workouts. Workouts are currently 3 days a week with 1 hour time limit and staggered to start times and end times and mandatory screening and temperature checks. We currently have approximately 150 student athletes participating in workout pods with a maximum of 14 students and 1 coach. On the 13th, we plan to move to phase 2 of the return to activity plan, which will include some spring sports 2 days a week. We'll be hosting an orientation for families interested in phase 2 on Thursday, October 8th at 6:30 p.m. via Zoom. Also, Newark Memorial Athletics has been awarded the National Safe Sports School Award. This award recognizes secondary schools around the country that take crucial steps to keep their athletes free from injuries and have an excellent emergency preparedness team in place during sports involving local EMS county fire departments, as well as on-campus certified athletic trainers. Newark Memorial was awarded a first team award, which means we have verified both required and recommended elements of planning. Prior to Newark Memorial receiving this award, only 2 public schools and 7 private schools in the Bay Area / Northern California had received this award. Special thanks to Wendell Velasquez, our athletics trainer, for his hard work. And that's my report for the night. Thank you guys for listening.
Thank you, student member.
Nope,
So-
sorry. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just appreciating student member Salemi. Ms. Gutierrez, do we have our final speaker?
Nothing from Ms. Rollins.
Okay, thank you.
I will give it a few more seconds. I actually wanted to correct myself from earlier on process with regards to, if that's okay, and that gives Ms. Rollins hopefully a couple minutes to join. Before adjourning to closed session, I did not read out, again, those items are on the agenda. And if anybody ever wonders when we adjourn to closed session, what we'll be discussing, they are posted on the agenda, again, 72 hours. But just following in current common practice, I will go ahead and review verbally what we discussed. And those were items 3.1, public employee discipline dismissal release, 3.2, conference with labor negotiator, employee organizations, NTA and CSEA. 3.3 is conference with labor negotiator, NUMA, unrepresented supervisors and contracted management. 3.4 is conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, and 3.5 conference with legal counsel regarding anticipated litigation. Just wanted to tie those items up. No luck yet? Okay.
Unfortunately, no.
Okay, thank you. And then I also just want to issue an apology in advance in case my internet cuts out. I have been having really spotty connections, but I've asked member Zhang to proceed with the meeting if it takes me a little longer to reconnect if I am in fact dropped. So again, I apologize in advance for that. Okay, and with that, we move to then if we are complete with the student reports, we will move on to Item 7, which is employee organizations. Ms. Gutierrez, do we have NTA lined up?
Yes, we do. Mr. Abruzzi. He's
Okay, hold on a second. There we are. Can everyone hear me?
Yep.
Okay.
Welcome.
Welcome, thank you. So today, some of the things that NTA wants to bring up would be class sizes. One of the things that came up was a class size where we had an averages in a 5th grade class, and we just wanted, and we brought that up to balance those classes out, but the district didn't want to, which is a $300 stipend for those teachers to be paid each month. When I was in negotiations with the district back when we were doing our CBA, one of the things that kept coming up was how the district was always in the hole. So it was just kind of weird how that happened. The other thing would be of how students are moved from in and out of classes. NTA thought the process was that a parent would go to the principal. After that, the principal would bring the issue to the teacher, and then the principal will make the decision if the student is moved. In this process, this helps out so that these issues do not come up again, so that if there is an issue with a teacher and a student, they can be addressed and be developed. We have found out that one of our students got moved through the HR department, and it was not explained why the student was moved. If this is the process that the district is doing, then I guess parents can just go right to the district instead of going to the sites. The other thing we want to bring up that came up to NTA's attention was the TOSA positions. These positions are, we thought, for teachers on special assignment to be helping out classroom teachers, and it's been bringing to NTA's attention that these positions are being used to help out the district office. So another thing we would like to bring up, an update. Last time I was here, we talked about the lead teachers positions. Those are definitely getting posted, and we want to thank the district for putting those out there. One of the other issues that was brought up was the McGregor site, which still has not been solved. We have teachers teaching classes outside the credential areas. And when NTA asked, where are these consent forms? We still have not seen those consent forms. So we would like to know what the process is on that. And the last thing we have to bring up is we understand that there was a lot of students with IEPs moved out of an RSP class into a regular class. These IEPs were brought up to NTA's attention that some of them needed a co-teaching position. And I was under the impression that we do not do co-teaching. So it would be important to understand of when we move students with IEPs to make sure we look at those IEPs and make sure that we are following those IEPs. That is a very, if we do not follow those IEPs, that is very, we can have some major lawsuits. NTA understands for the inclusion of these students, but we also want the district to follow the law too. And that's basically what NTA has. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Mr. Abruzzi.
Thank you.
Ms. Gutierrez, do we have CSCA?
Yes, we have Ms. Sue Eustace.
There we go. Good evening, members of the board. I believe that the last time that I talked to you, I was telling you that that Saturday we're going to have a benefit fair. Our benefit fair, this is our 10th one, and what it serves to have this fair is for members, our members, if they want to change their health care plan, they do it by October 1st. And so this gives them, having this fair gives them an opportunity to determine which plan is best for them and their family. And so we had that on September 19th. It was very successful. It was online, but it still was very successful. We also had two in-service trainings. One was on how to improve making our meetings more effective. And also the second one was on how to deal with strong emotions from different people on the job. It was a lady from back east, and she was absolutely awesome. And there were a lot of questions, and I think she gave us some really good advice on how to deal with that. And I think that'll be helpful for all of us in upcoming, not only with our meetings, but other meetings that they participate in, and also how to deal with people that have different types of personalities and how to make their situation better. We had an executive board meeting on September 28th. At this time of the year, we're getting prepared for our elections. We have elections of our chapter officers every 2 years. So starting in November, starting in October and November, we will be taking nominations for all of the chapter officer positions, negotiating team, and job stewards. And so we will be doing that in October and November, and then we will vote on the people running for the different offices in December. And they will be installed and take their position in January. We also worked on our budget. It's been taken to the chapter once. We will take it again twice to make sure that we've got everything covered and everybody has a clear understanding of what our budget is. We are also at this time working on the November elections. We are working on Proposition 15, which is a positive effect if we can get it through in the district. And we are doing phone banking and we are doing texting in behalf of yes on Proposition 15. CSCA is going to be holding new classes for job stewards who would like to be trained on how to be a really good job steward. That will be in October. We also are having a candidates night for the school board, Newark School Board. And so that will be on October 5th. And we hope to have a number of our people participating in that candidates night. I think it's really important for people to know exactly who the candidates are. We also are continuing. Today we had a meeting in EERC. We are working on a number of small issues, and I think that we're being very successful there. We are still continuing to work on our number 2 MOU. It's not quite done, but I feel that we are heading in the right direction. And our next chapter meeting will be October 12th. As you can see, it's a busy time of the year, and I feel that it's been a very successful year, and hopefully next year will be as well. So thank you very much. I appreciate you letting me give you a report. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Eustace. And Ms. Gutierrez, somebody from NUMA?
Yes,
Okay, thank you.
I have Ms. Catherine Ingham Waters.
Good evening, Board President, Board Trustees, Superintendent Triplett, Executive Cabinet, and Newark Community. I'm Catherine Ingham Waters, Principal at Birch Grove Intermediate and President of the NUMA organization. So first of all, I understand later on the agenda tonight, the board will be considering a resolution for the week of the school administrator, which will be hopefully celebrated the week of October 12th. And we would just like to share that we are pleased that Newark Unified School District school leaders are commended for their contributions towards student achievement. So thank you for considering that resolution. The other part is we talk a lot about the professional development that we support our teachers with. And so tonight we'd like to share a little bit about the professional development that our leaders are doing. So our NUMA members not only support our students and district, but they dedicate both work and personal time to stay up to date on best practices for leadership and instruction. Our teams prioritize the pursuit of professional development that will help push them and our district forward. This year, our team members have pursued further knowledge supporting our 3 guiding principles: assessment for learning, rigorous instruction, and social emotional learning. Some trainings that we have participated in this year so far are breakthrough leadership from striving to thriving, closing the digital gap, curriculum and instruction through the AXA Academy, SEAL during distance learning, ongoing Southern Alameda County Consortium for Adult Ed, Inclusion Collaborative Fall Conference. Upcoming trainings include the Bayside Leadership Seminar, CARES Act funding for schools, and conversations on well-being and early childhood. As the year goes on, we will continue to pursue opportunities to strengthen and reinforce our leadership skills. We would like to thank our colleagues and peers for supporting each other in these pursuits. As always, we look forward to the upcoming work we can do with these new or reinforced skills. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Ingham Waters. Okay, and I believe that was our last organization, Ms. Gutierrez. Okay, and with that, we move to item 8, staff spotlight. Superintendent.
Thank you, President Martinez. If you'll give me a moment, I'll bring up our slide deck for this. Let's see here. Great. So tonight we have 3 fantastic NUSD family members, staff members that we wanted to celebrate. First, we have, because it has been Attendance Awareness Month in September, we wanted to highlight one of our outstanding attendance clerks. This is Michelle Charles. She's the attendance clerk. Oops, sorry. Attendance clerk at Snow Elementary. I've actually not had the honor of meeting Michelle yet, but she was lifted up by many, many different colleagues and staff as being someone who we really needed to celebrate this month. I know Snow has been delighted to have her as an attendance clerk. She greets all the visitors with kindness. She provides care and attention to the students. She diligently monitors attendance, highly motivated. And since distance learning, she has provided regular communication to teachers, the principal, families. She helps students get connected and stay connected to virtual classrooms and assignments. And she's a proud Newark Memorial High School graduate, a student athlete, and an involved parent with a son at the junior high, a son at the high school, and a daughter in elementary. So please join me in a silent clap celebration and appreciation of Ms. Charles. Next, I wanted to appreciate a teacher, which I had the honor of visiting his classroom. This is Mr. Tristan Sheving. His father is also a part of Newark Unified and is at Music Elementary. But this Sheving Jr. Is an English teacher at the junior high. He's also the anime club advisor. When I visited his class, it was the 7th grade English class. I noticed students honing their skills with creative writing, super engaged in building character development for a story that they were making, really sharing profound ideas around character development. Mr. Sheving uses technology and humor to make class super fun and engaging. We got to witness him. He had designed a virtual Wheel of Fortune as a way of engaging kids in participating and maximizing their input. He also uses the breakout rooms in Zoom really well and allows students to engage with each other and learn from each other and not just from the teacher. So please join me in a silent celebration of Mr. Sheving. And last but certainly not least, I wanted to honor tonight one of our amazing principals, Dr. Wendy Castaneda Leal. She's the principal at Schilling Elementary, which many of you probably know. So she's Schilling's outstanding principal. She goes the extra mile to support her students and families. She volunteers her time. I know I was with her during the family tech drive-through on a Saturday when she'd come to volunteer her time to support families. She hosts the food distribution, the mobile health clinic at her school, and soon we'll be hosting a dental mobile clinic as well. When she's not visiting classrooms to support teachers and students, she's tirelessly doing home visits to support families to get online and how to manage distance learning and support their child. I know Miss Ingham Waters just spoke about professional development opportunities, and Dr. Wendy's an excellent example of really seeking out outstanding professional development opportunities for herself and her staff. She also continues to lead a vision which is near and dear to my heart, and that is for Schilling to become the first dual language immersion program in NUSD. So please join me in celebrating Dr. Wendy. And those are our celebrations for tonight.
Very good. Thank you. Thank you, Superintendent, for sharing that. Okay, and with that, we move to item 9, which is public comment on non-agenda items. Ms. Gutierrez, do we have speakers for tonight?
Yes, let me look at our first speaker. The first speaker tonight is on public comment, Ms. Cindy Parks.
Okay, please bring her on.
Ms. Cindy Parks, you can unmute your mic.
Thank you. I
Hello,
would like
good
to
evening.
advocate for the staff and certificated and classified who are using new programs and platforms for instruction, yet have not received sufficient professional development or professional development or any professional development at all. They've been trying to do the best that they can without receiving the necessary training to provide the optimal instruction. On another note, all you have said that you support transparency. Transparency is one of your district's core standards, in which it says you will conduct yourselves with openness and candor in all aspects of your work. I made a completely reasonable public records request on September 12th, 2020. My request for the reports that exist and for the most part were previously supplied to the school board or part of a staff report during board meetings. I was not deserving of this flippant response. The school and central office staff will be directed to rearrange their priority work serving students and families in order to comply with your personal request for information per government code. I'm surprised someone in a leadership position would ever make such a disrespectful statement and copy a subordinate. Furthermore, I did not receive within the required 10 days any type of determination letter whether my request, in whole or in part, seeks copies of disclosable public records in the possession of the agency. On September 25th, 2020, I sent a follow-up email informing the district my request was beyond the allocated 10 days. On Tuesday of this week, I received the following assurance. Currently, the team is reviewing the documents to determine which documents are disclosable to your request. I can assure you that I will be sending another email today to fulfill what has been made available to satisfy your request, while the remainder is being reviewed by our legal team. Yes, the email said reviewed by our legal team. This is a simple public records request. It has now been 19 days since I sent my request, and the only records I have is an email thread. Is this the type of transparency this board supports? Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Ms. Parks. Ms. Gutierrez, additional speaker?
Yes, President Martinez, we have 2 more, and the next one is Mr. Kerry Noop. Mr. Noop, you can unmute your microphone. Okay.
There.
And I think I'm unmuted.
Yep,
You're
you
unmuted.
are.
Okay.
Welcome, Mr. Noop.
Okay. Yeah, good evening, board members and staff, superintendent. First of all, I want to say something. The cutting off of member Zhang is uncalled for. Board members have the right to ask questions. Obviously, 99.99% of the time when staff or superintendent requests an item to be removed from the agenda, that will be granted. But it is the board's agenda. It is the board's meeting, and cutting off board members is just not done. I really hope that President, apologize and sees that that is not correct. Furthermore, I believe that our superintendent is perfectly capable to formulate a reason for the removal request that is suitable for a public meeting. So I'm shocked to see that interruption. And unfortunately, I believe it is not the only incident. I think that I believe that our president is overstepping her authority. She cuts off board members. She makes arbitrary rules in the school's consolidation committee. She makes unilateral decisions, and she doesn't grant board members requests to bring items back. But let's talk about more important things. What is this board talking about? The last few board members, I've seen a lot of, what I call pride and praise and decorum shows. And of course you need that. I mean, of course people need to be, recognized for things. I understand that. But if that's the only thing that's happening, we have a problem. Board members need to ask critical questions. They need to ask items to come up. What about the enrollment report? What about the status of distance learning? What about schools reports for the summer? Math programs, special programs. When I see the FICMAC report, I see 0 questions from board members. When I see the actuals, with the exception of Mr. Zhang, no questions were asked. Your job is to ask the critical questions. And even if you know the answer, you need to bring it in the public purview. You have more information than the public. You need to bring things in the public. But again, having said that, there's one more important thing, and that's COVID-19. In the last few meetings, I have not heard a board member issue concern about reentry. We all hope we can go back to school. We need to bring this up. Even if you have daily meetings with the superintendent, you need to bring it in the public purview. You need your concerns. Do we have protocols that, heaven forbid, if something happens, there are written down protocols? As a board member, you want to see these protocols with your own eyes. That's your fiscal responsibility. What about workshops? Have a workshop. Parents, teachers, they can voice their concerns about reentry.
Thank you very much. The 3 minutes are up.
Thank you, Mr. Noop, and thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. Do we had? I think you said we had a third. Yes, speaker. Oh, you're on mute. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Thank you. Yes, if we can move Mr. Noop back to an attendee, and then the next one will be Ms. Cindy Thomas.
Cindy Thomas?
Sorry, Nancy Thomas. Apologies.
Okay, because I thought you had mentioned a different name. Thank you.
Thank you for that. Ms. Thomas, you can unmute your mic.
Yes.
Welcome, Ms. Thomas.
Thank you. Good evening, board members. Glenn Smith from the First Amendment Coalition recently said, and I quote, "Look, outside of the speed limit, the Brown Act is probably the most often violated law in California. 1 year ago, I sent you a cease and desist letter claiming Brown Act violations. At the time, you brushed aside my allegations, saying there was no intent to deceive and that there was no violation because the items were pulled and no action was taken. Instead of acknowledging the serious nature of the issues I raised, you ignored them, and you even launched a veiled criticism at me for the legal fees you had to pay. The public deserves better than that. It is disheartening to see the Brown Act ignored. The Brown Act is not just guidance, it is the law. It protects the public's right to know what you are doing. The public's input, my input, it should be embraced, not discouraged, ignored, criticized, or dismissed on obscure legal grounds. Since my original letter, you have violated the act at an even more rapid clip. To name a few examples, you failed to orally report the CBO's salary and benefits when her contract was approved. You failed to report out the substance of settlements. You failed to announce items to be covered in closed session before adjourning to closed session. And you know what? You failed to do that again this evening. You failed to identify the position of an employee released in closed session, calling it an administrator instead of using a title like assistant principal. You announced a closed session action without saying what that action was, saying the board unanimously approved the staff recommendation. Well, what does that tell the public? You failed to physically post agendas for meetings at the district office. You failed to name the votes of individual board members on closed session items, saying the board voted 4-1 for something, but you failed to name the members and their votes. You failed to orally report salary and benefits and update executive contracts when executive salary schedules were approved. You failed to post a link from the homepage to the agenda within the required 72-hour window. You attempted to approve executive salary increases in a special meeting, which is against the act. Over my board tenure, I prevented many Brown Act violations by pointing out problems with agenda items so they could be pulled or corrected. Sometimes I feel that Cindy Parks and I are the only ones minding the store. Why is it that only she and I call these out? Why are you not policing one another? And why are staff members responsible for advising you, not making sure the act is followed? In closing, new board members will soon be elected. Those members will need Brown Act training, but they are not the only ones. You board members, your central office administrators and their executive assistants need it as well. And thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Thomas, for your comments. And with that, we move to item 10, which is the superintendent report.
Thank you, President Martinez. Give me one moment to bring this up. Great. So this evening, we're going to talk about a number of different things. First of all, I wanted to, I believe the board my memory might be failing me, but I believe the board asked for a report about the report out on the family technology drive-throughs that we had. So really wanted to give a chance to appreciate everyone who participated in these. We had 2 family technology drive-throughs, one on September 19th, one on September 22nd, Saturday and a Tuesday. And the goal was really to support families who were needing help in terms of navigating online learning, getting online, knowing how to navigate Zoom or Google for their student. So here you see a couple pictures. We had volunteers from staff, from different schools. We had alumni from a Puente program that have already graduated from college. We had community members, including former board members. It was a really tremendous 2-day event. 26 families attended during the 2 days and got support from all of those volunteers. And we now really like to think about what our next step is. One of the things we're considering is offering additional sessions, either again at Newark Memorial or possibly in other parts of the city to continue to support families who are challenged or struggling to get online or experiencing technological difficulties. So that's the report about that. I know also that the board wanted a report about enrollment, and every board meeting I've tried to share out the current numbers, but I know the board was interested in seeing more specific numbers. So I brought that, here we go, brought that today. So I'll just take a moment to explain this, and because as you can see, there's a lot of numbers on here. So what you see is this is the enrollment numbers mapped out by school and then in totals as well. And what we wanted to do was show a little, give you all a sense of a little with comparative numbers based on last year, projections, and then current enrollment. So the first column where you see, whoops, sorry, you can see my arrow, I believe, are the enrollment numbers from last year at approximately this time, September 13th, 2019. And so that's actually CalPADS Day, it's the 20-day count. And then you see in the next column, these are the projection numbers that were established during budgeting in the spring of last year, actually probably earlier than the spring now that I think about it. So this is the projections for enrollment for the year. And then in the next column, you see the enrollment numbers as of the 28th, which was, what was that? I believe Tuesday. And so then the final column is you can see the difference between projections and current counts. And so we have it by school, but then if you go down to the bottom, you see that we're currently 79 students below what our projections were going to be for this year. I've mentioned it before that we were under our projections, but this I wanted to bring back like a really concrete number for you all to see. I actually just want to apologize a little bit. Last time I misspoke in terms of the number because I was did a little bit of math wrong, but thankfully I got our experts in our enrollment office to verify and make sure that all of these are the actual numbers, including students with IEPs. So the reason I think obviously it's important to note this year we are not held accountable to the same funding per ADA that we normally would in a normal year. But nonetheless, these numbers are really important and we need to monitor them all year long because we need to base our projections next year off of some really strong statistics, strong projections. And so it is cause for concern for us to be that below projections. We're obviously really hoping to be above projections. And obviously there'll be an impact if we are this far below next year when we return to the ADA funding. I'm going to go through the whole presentation, and then if there's any questions about any particular thing, then we can jump back. The second thing I wanted to share out is very new news. This is right off of the presses as of this afternoon, and that is with regard to it's a COVID-19 update, and with regard to the California Blueprint for a Safer Economy. As you recall, last time when I spoke about the fact that we had, as a county, moved from the purple into the red tier and would need to maintain the statistics of the red tier for 2 weeks before the county would consider our eligibility in schools and school districts to begin planning for a reopening. Well, we, as of this afternoon, there was an announcement by the County Department of Health. They updated their shelter-in-place orders for the county. And so I'm going to go over really relatively quickly what some of those that revision stated. So all of the revisions, and you can find them online in the County Health Department. This is revised and effective as of October 9th. So even though it's the first today, these won't go into effect until the 9th. Some general things that are now able to open with reduced capacity include libraries, museums, zoos, aquariums, indoor fitness and gyms, indoor hair salons and barbershops, and some other things as well. I'm not going to go into those because that's out of my purview, but I just wanted to give a little context. What I did want to talk more about is what they announced with regard to school reopening. So as you can see here, the parts in italics I just took directly from the health department, but worth reading. As of October 13th, the health department in coordination with the Department of Education has said that elementary schools, that being transitional kindergarten through 6th grade, that complete a COVID-19 health and safety reopening plan are permitted to open. That doesn't mean open in full, although it's not explicitly stated here, but really the implication is open into a hybrid model. So that would be like a reduced capacity model. Alameda County will consider permitting middle schools and high schools, in our case, junior high and high schools, students to return to in-person education in 4 to 12-week phases as local disease conditions allow. So what that means is the county health department and the county Department of Ed are really structuring a reopening in a staggered way. So elementary coming back first, then middle or junior high, and then high school later on. And I think that's really based on data, based on what they know about the spread of the coronavirus and the lesser impact and the less spreadability, if you will, of younger students, younger people. And also just, it also is based on what we all know about the challenge of scheduling in the upper grades. In the younger grades in elementary, it's really much easier to have small cohorts of 16, 14 or less in bubbles that don't come into contact with any other students or adults for that matter throughout the day. Much more challenging in the secondary, not impossible, but much more challenging. And so I believe the county really wants to open in this way to really be cautious and safe. What will be required is that we will be required to notify, to post and submit reopening plans before we can reopen. And but what's important to note is that the decision and the timing of reopening after October 13th really rests with the school district. And so that's a decision that we will be making. Of course, as always, we're going to be making these kind of decisions in partnership with our labor partners and would not make any sort of unilateral decisions about reopening without them. Couple last things I want to say about this is I know that when these kind of announcements come out, people sometimes just read a part of it and then they think they're hearing that, oh my God, we're all going back to school on October 13th. That's not the case. So we are not reopening on October 13th in Newark Unified School District, but October 13th is the date that the county will accept reopening plans. We do not intend, I do not anticipate that we will have the agreements with our labor partners nor the reopening plans ready to submit on October 13th. But what I do want to commit to here is that both the board and the community, that anytime we are in a position to reopen, we would of course give at least 2 weeks advance notice and publicize it 2 weeks in advance so that people are aware and can make plans themselves. So again, Newark Unified School District not opening on October 13th. I was going to say it a couple times there, but the county is allowing school districts to begin that process starting on that date. The other thing that I know comes up for some families is there are some families, I've heard them say it to me directly, that are not going to be comfortable going back to in-person learning anytime soon, possibly not this year at all. And so what we want to really make sure that we are reassuring families that we will continue to have an online option for any family that needs it, for any family that is not ready to return to in-person learning for safety or health reasons. So we'll have more information about that to present to the board and to the public soon, but just wanted to reiterate that if a family is feeling that that's not safe when it is time to return, that we will continue to have an option for them. And then lastly, I just wanted to emphasize that we continue to prepare. We have a plethora of supplies and safety equipment. We've also developed our safety protocols already. We have our safety protocols and procedures in place. So although we're not jumping back into reopening, we are very prepared to do so when the time is right. And that's my presentation for tonight. Are there any questions from the board?
Member Nguyen?
Thank you, Superintendent Triplett, for the report. I do have a question in regards to the reopening plans. Will you be and staff be presenting town hall meetings like you did early in the fall when we were getting ready to head back into school, and in terms of distance learning, you had made some presentations. And also, although you had mentioned safety plans and protocols and that you have proper procedures in place, will they be outlined and available for community and family to be able to view those documentations, and how you're preparing the classrooms, and how our teachers and staff are going to be safe during this time of reopening when we do open? And then those are it. Those are my two questions. Thank you.
Thank you, Member Nguyen. Yes, the answer is yes to both those. We're actually required, although we would do it anyway, but we are required to post all our safety plans and our reopening plans on our websites. Yeah, that's absolutely something we want to do early and often. We will absolutely have engagement meetings with community, as well as presenting to the board all of our plans, and continuing to get input from community on what they're prioritizing, what they really want, and any suggestions or ideas that they have for how we can do this.
And do you anticipate those meetings soon coming up in the next? Is there a timeline?
We don't. This news just came out today, so we haven't established any dates yet for any of those engagements. I do engage every week I go to the parks every week and engage with community members and discuss this and other issues. So I'm planning on continuing to do that. But then, yeah, we definitely will want to set up some times where we can do some online town hall type engagements to further speak with.
Superintendent, if I may, remember when I asked some of the questions, I think there's quite a bit of different dimensions. If we think about the original plan, I think that was presented. Would it be possible, as I look at the calendar, where we have our next meeting on October the 15th, would it be possible for us to see as a board what the comprehensive plan looks like? I recognize that it's not a completed one until all our labor partners agree, but it'd be great to just understand what are all the different dimensions and the target timings that you would have. Is that possible to do that in the next 2 weeks?
We'd be happy to do that. Yeah, we can bring that on October 15th. Okay,
and I'm just going to look for shakes of the head from the rest of the board members that's something that we would all want to have. Okay, I think I saw that. Okay, so at least 3 of
Yes,
us. I can't see Member Rodriguez. Okay, thank you very much.
So quick comment for me. It looks like there are, speaking of the reopening plan, it looks like there are 2 competing school of thoughts when it comes to who should come back first. So I've heard that there are some opinions saying actually the secondary should be the one coming back first, because they are mature enough to know that they shouldn't chase after each other. They shouldn't be kissing or hugging their teachers or each other. And obviously the challenge regarding elementary school is I see it very, very hard to control the kids, not to play and chasing each other, not to hug their teachers. Because ultimately we all know the vulnerable people in this situation is the adults. It's not the teenagers, it's not the kids.
Yeah,
so
yeah, continue.
Yeah, I just want to hear your thought when it comes to, yeah, we're gonna bring back, because in your plan, we're bringing back, I guess, the youngest kids first.
Right. Yeah, it's there has been a lot of different discussion over the course of this pandemic about what's best, what's safest. This plan of staggering and starting with the elementary school is what has been developed by the Department of Health, and they're basing that on science, data. I do think that I appreciate your lifting up a concern that I've heard as well around, well, younger kids maybe harder to control in terms of like following the guidelines. we do have examples out there already of for example, with the with our partners Cadango, who do childcare, and they actually they've been open on our sites since before school started, and it's been going very well. And we're already learning a lot from how they're conducting things. And those are the smallest kids, the youngest. But their processes and procedures and guidelines have been really strong. And so we have already incorporated some of the things that they developed into our own plans. But what's coming out is that the younger kids are actually doing quite a good job at maintaining social distancing, keeping their masks on, and following the guidelines. So it's encouraging. I also think that there is the reduced risk of spread in the younger kids, and while data continues to evolve and change all the time, that is what the county health officials have indicated is something that will influence their decision.
Okay.
Thank you, Member Zhang. Any other questions? Okay.
All right, thank you.
And does that conclude your report, Superintendent?
Yes, it does.
Thank you very much.
I was excited
Okay,
to
and
find out about sport as well, but board member Salemi beat me to the punch, so I'm not going to talk about sports.
thank you. With that, we'll move to item 11, which is the staff report. 1.1 ACOE approval of NUSD 2021 adopted budget. Superintendent.
Thank you very much.
Sorry to interrupt, President Martinez. Just to let you know, we do have a speaker on this item.
Thank you. We'll go ahead and have our public comment first. This is not an action item, it's just a staff report item. So let's go ahead and have our speaker speak.
Okay. And the speaker, actually, I don't know if he's still available. This is a request made by Mr. Kerry Noop. Oh, he's available. Mr. Noop, you can unmute your mic and begin talking.
Yes. I'm sorry, Superintendent Triplett, of taking away the opportunity of talking when you were talking. Yes, I would just want to quickly talk about the letter. It seems a little bit unusual to me, that letter, because I've seen letters before and they basically say, well, you got a clean bill of health or you're not, you're qualified and you need to, develop a plan. And, bottom line is, based on our actuals, the budget is good. The 2 years following is good. Of course, we're not in great position. Nobody's going to dispute that. But then they go on with a long list of stuff, pulling up resolutions from 2009, which, by the way, is not to be found online anymore. And I really kind of request that it would be nice if the district office could put resolution 1774 online or make that available, because we just can't find it. It's not available. It's too old. And it all lingers around this loan thing, that Fund 17 is loaned. And, the way I look at it, it's like a checking and a savings account. I mean, the bottom line is the board can make a resolution next meeting saying, while we want to promptly pay back loans, it would never interfere with our bottom line. And I mean, there is really no hammer above us that says we have to pay back a loan in a certain time frame. So I'm a little bit disturbed that this is all brought up as some big argument. I hope it's not going to be another closing school argument, because again, we have that money and the board can at any time decide to use that. So a little bit surprising that that detail is in the ACOE. And again, we want to be conservative and present our finances in the most accurate way, but we shouldn't go over that. And we shouldn't start, making it more negative than it really is. And that's a little bit my concern with all the political pressures of, closing and then selling schools and then building a new school and moving the district office. There are forces in our city who they only think about curb appeal. They don't have kids in our district and they just think curb appeal is important. And we want to make sure that we make the right decisions. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Knoop. Is that the only speaker, Ms. Gutierrez?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. And hand it back to you, Superintendent.
Thank you, President Martinez. Yeah, so this next item is this happens every time that there is a situation with the budget that the county delivers a letter sort of to help guide us and guide the board in decision making. So I'm going to turn it over to our Chief Business Officer, Ms. Dela Cruz, in a moment. But I will say that I really want to encourage all of us to really pay attention to the words in the letter, because there's definite things that we need to stay attentive to. And really the bottom line is that we continue to have a structural deficit. So we continue to we continue to spend more than we get in revenue. And that's just not responsible. And we have to continue to make really hard decisions to change that, because regardless of how much savings we may have in the quote unquote bank, if we are continuing to spend more than we receive, then we're just not being responsible with our finances. So I'll turn it over to Ms. Dela Cruz to speak more about this. But I will also say that this is something that we want to continue to speak with the board about. And we are hoping to have a study session at an upcoming board meeting where we really dive into the details of the FCMAT report. I know that the FCMAT report was presented by the FCMAT point person or lead. And we said at the time that what we would be doing was be coming back with some concrete steps that we are taking to address what's been brought up in the report. And so we do want to engage the board in that conversation during a study session at an upcoming meeting. But with that, I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Dela Cruz.
Thank you, Dr. Triplett. Ms. Gutierrez, am I able to share my screen?
Yes, we are.
Yes?
Yes, you are.
Oh, okay. Okay, thank you. Good evening, President Martinez, board members, executive cabinet, and the community. I would just like to bring up the letter so that we can all kind of go through it together. So as you know, back in June, the board adopted the 2021 budget. And since then, the state enacted a budget and we've had a 45-day budget revision. So part of the review from the county does include our 45-day budget revision, since there were some significant changes since the budget was adopted. So good news, based upon the county's review, our adopted budget for 2021 has been approved. And I'd like to review some of the highlights in their analysis. So based on their review, when they were looking at the original adopted budget, our multi-year projection showed that in the first year that we would be able to meet our minimum reserve requirement. But in the 2 subsequent years, we were showing negative unrestricted ending fund balances for each of the 2 years. So since then, you know, the state did enact a budget that looked a lot better than the governor's May revision. However, because the subsequent year budgets are still very unpredictable, we're still not sure how the COVID is going to impact the economy. The county is suggesting that we should plan for multiple scenarios, including the likelihood of decreases in revenues, and also the possibility that we could continue getting cash deferrals as a way for the state to solve their deficit. So in the multi-year projection, we had updated our assumptions based on the enacted state budget. But even with that, we were showing deficit spending of approximately $200,000 for next year, and then 1.8 million for the following year. Again, even with the enacted state budget looking better than the May revise, we're still showing a deficit because the new assumption still did not include any cost of living increase in our revenues. What the county is expecting because of the uncertainty of the next 2 years is that we would have resolutions that would specify expenditure reductions for next year and beyond, because we are still showing a deficit, and they're going to want to see detailed plans and timelines for implementation, just like we did last year. If you recall, we passed 2 resolutions last year to balance our budget, and those 2 resolutions included over $6 million in reductions. The FCMAT report was also mentioned in the letter. The fiscal health risk analysis was reviewed with our board, and it did determine that we are at high risk of fiscal insolvency because we are continuing to experience declining enrollment, and FCMAT highly encourages us to continue to make these hard decisions, because we have to continually look at our expenditures and how they compare to our revenues. And in the next couple of years, we are still projecting a deficit. The county is committed to supporting us, and however, they do expect us to make these decisions so that the district can return to fiscal stability. The interfund borrowing. So in every review, whether it's the adopted budget, the first interim, second interim, third interim, the issue with the interfund borrowing between Fund 17, which was the reserve for emergency purposes, to the general fund has happened at least 3 times. And the expectation was that it would be paid back from future general fund budgets. Again, the county did mention this in the letter, and they're noticing that no progress has been made in repaying these funds, and that this debt is still outstanding. So with any interfund borrowing by Ed Code, there is a requirement that the funds and the monies are paid back within the same year. There is a little caveat in that if the transfer happens towards the end of the year, then you have so many days to pay it back in the following school year. Just as a reminder, the total that has been borrowed from Fund 17 is about $5.5 million. So there was $1.5 million almost in 08-09, another $1 million in 15-16, and or 16-17, and then $3 million in 17-18. The cash flow concerns, the state is deferring the cash that they're distributing to the districts, as a way to save money on their end. And fortunately for us, we do have funds that will allow us to, again, temporarily hold us over during this time. So the cash deferrals, they're going to start in February of next year. And the deferrals will go on from February, March, April, May, and June. Right now, the estimate of the amount that we will be deferred for our district, it's about 36% of our total funding, which comes out to almost 19.5 million. So what we're going to have to do is temporarily borrow cash from our other funds, like our developer fees and our Fund 40, the capital reserves, capital outlay reserves, and possibly again for Fund 17. We've already passed a resolution that the board is going to allow these interfund borrowing. So they commended us for being proactive in that. And the county does acknowledge and express their appreciation to the district staff, the board, and the community for our continued diligence and hard work. So thank you. Are there any comments or questions?
Speaking of interfund borrowing, I thought is the expectation of borrowing only for 1 year period, right?
Yes.
Yeah, because I know that our CBO, Mrs. De La Cruz, just mentioned that the board approved the interfund borrowing resolution, but also that the approval of that resolution every year is a form of formality. It's not really that there's a serious borrowing for several years. So I just hope we stay within that limit. It's a formality that happens every year, and then the borrowing period is within a year. You're going to pay back within the calendar year.
Yes, correct. By Ed Code, there's a requirement to pay it back within the same year, unless again, you know, the borrowing happens towards the end of the year, and then you have, I think it was 2 or 3 months to pay it back in the next fiscal year. And that's by Ed Code, and the resolution is a formality, but there's an Ed Code that supports that.
Thank you for your question, Member Zhang. And Ms. De La Cruz, the last time when we did discuss and approve the resolution, I believe I'd asked about whether we would be, how frequently we would be getting updates as to our progress in paying those back, or what the forum would be. Would you expect that we would see those updates during the interims, or when will we expect to see how well we're doing, and are we on track to pay, you know, or move the money to the appropriate fund as we receive the revenues?
Yeah, certainly, and I think I mentioned that in our interim reports, and as part of our interim review process, the county expects us to show any funds that are borrowed in between interfund borrowing. And so that would be a time where I could present to the board where we're at, and if needed, more frequently, just to keep the board up to date. We haven't had to do any, obviously in the last, I'm not saying not any, but we do small amounts. For example, if our food service department is not bringing in the cash flow in a certain period, then maybe we need a couple $100,000 to hold them over, then we would transfer that, or the timing of when we get our cash from the state is not enough. So we do temporary borrowing, and we have always paid it back within 2 to 3 months.
Gotcha, thank you. Any other questions for Ms. De La Cruz on this item? Thank you. Thank you for your thorough review. And I think we've all seen that. And to your point, Superintendent Triplett, you know, there are a lot of items that we need to keep our eye on. And so sometimes we may have a little bit of good news here, but we need to look at the collective picture. So again, appreciate the overview, Ms. Dela Cruz.
Thank you.
Okay, thank you. And with that, we move to item 11.2, which is the attendance reporting process. Superintendent?
President Martinez. And I believe we're going to have Ms. Leon enter Ms. Gutierrez.
Yes, she's available.
Wait. Oh,
Ms. Leon, you can unmute yourself.
all right. So
Thank
I'll
you.
just introduce Ms. Leon. So this year, I think I've alluded to it in previous meetings, but this year with distance learning and shelter in place, attendance obviously looks very, very different. And so there are actually rules and laws created by the state legislator around or about this difference, but they did not come out with the specific guidelines for those laws that were passed until after we had already entered the school year. So it's been a little bit challenging for all districts because we've had to sort of build the new attendance plan while in session in school. But I really want to commend Ms. Leon and her team for putting together this and putting together a plan. And so we wanted to come and share that with you tonight. And with that, I'll turn it over to Ms. Leon.
Thank you, Superintendent Triplett. Good evening, Board, Executive Cabinet, and Community. And I will be talking about the attendance protocol and procedures. Ms. Gutierrez, can you share the PowerPoint, please? Okay.
Do you see the screen?
I do. Thank you.
Okay.
Okay. Can you go to number 2, please? Okay, so Senate Bill 98 was signed this summer and talks about attendance and engagement. And this is the law that Dr. Triplett just mentioned. It states that we must document daily participation of each student on each school day. If the student does not attend the live instruction during distance learning, then they must be marked absent. Each district is also required to ensure a weekly engagement record that is completed for each student participating in distance learning. Next, please. Attendance versus participation. So when we talk about attendance, it's when the student actually participates in the live session, and participation is, at this point, it's only for elementary, and we have families with special circumstances where the student cannot be present in the live session, but is able to complete the work for the day that evening with a family member. So attendance, again, it's live session. Participation is completing the work at the end of the day. And I'll be going a little bit more over that in another slide. Next, please. Engagement. Teachers are taking attendance daily for elementary school and each period for secondary. Next, please. So synchronous distance learning, just as a reminder, we're talking about the live session. In order for a student to be marked present, the student must attend the live session with the visual attendance check-in and camera ready. If there's a barrier, then the parent should communicate with the teacher, and participation with auditory or chat feature can be sufficient to mark the student present. If the student is late or leaving early, teachers should consider following up with the parent and informing attendance staff to assist with the follow-up. And after that, also the district also assists with follow-ups. Next, please. So asynchronous distance learning. So that's when the student is working, but he's not on the live session. He's working separately from the live session. So right now we have a special accommodation for elementary school only, and it's by parent request only. If the student does not attend the mandatory scheduled live session for the day, an alternative attendance code participation may be used to mark the student as having participated if the student attempts or completes independent activities on that attendance day. Usually these are parents who are essential workers, and we want to make sure that students do engage. Sorry, I'm trying to. Okay, next, please. So in order for us to log the student engagement district-wide, Synergy has developed an engagement log, and we have created an attendance and engagement subcommittee for that. I'm having a little bit of technical difficulty, sorry. I couldn't turn on my, oh, there we go. Sorry about that. Next, please. So this attendance engagement subcommittee is comprised of the NTA president and members, administrators, the IT department, and the district office staff, including myself. This is the plan for rolling out the engagement log. On September 18th, our student information system was updated. On September 21st, we trained a group of teachers on how to fill out the engagement log. We will have a Synergy system reboot. Then after that, we will have teachers beta test for 1 week. Following that, we will meet and discuss any challenges or glitches. And we will create a clear plan to roll out to teachers with clear expectations and training videos. Next, please. Any questions?
I have one.
Oh, go ahead.
Is the weekly engagement record that you mentioned earlier, is that specifically how much each student is participating in class, or is that just how often they attend the class?
So the engagement report would be more whether the student completed the work or did not complete the work.
Okay, thank you.
And I apologize for the camera. For some reason, I couldn't turn it on until the end. Any other questions?
Thank you, Ms. Leon. I had a question just for, and following as a follow-up to our student board members' question. I know that as parents, we received the letter. And I know specifically for secondary, there was the letter that was sent out. Did our students actually get a copy of those letters in their email as well, or only parents?
I believe for secondary, I'm not sure. I think it was only parents, but I could check. I'm not sure. I could check with the principals.
And just in my opinion, I think, obviously, especially high school, because the letter was aimed at secondary, and I think it's good that they know, that parents know, and so we're on the same page. So that would just be a suggestion.
Actually, I'll check with the principals, and if they haven't done so, we'll make sure we get it out to the students.
You're right. Maybe they did. I didn't ask my daughter. I should have done my homework first, but I'm just wondering if you knew.
No.
I have a quick question.
Yeah, go ahead, number one.
So although the information is inputted in Synergy, is there a way that the information is also put out into parent view so that parents, when they're checking students regularly on a weekly basis for performance? I know I check my daughter's updates from their teachers on there, and it would be nice to see if there's, because there is, I believe there is attendance tied into parent view. So will that information be available in there or moving forward, or is it currently not available?
So I would have to check with our IT department to see if once we start or we roll out the engagement log, if we will be able to put it on parent view so parents can access that information. So I need to follow up with IT.
Okay, any other questions? Yes. And if not, I've also, Ms. Gutierrez, I'd just like to have the record show that member Rodriguez had to drop off. He wasn't feeling well. So if we could just go ahead and make note of that.
Also, one last question. Since we are logging this data and information, will it be reported out on the California dashboard for for this school year, or is it still waived?
So no, they're actually going to be reported. We have to report to the state chronic absenteeism.
Okay.
So I'm sure it'll be public somewhere. So, but we do have to report it to the state.
I think, remember when, I think we're still waiting to hear back whether or not it would actually be on the dashboard itself, but we have to report it.
Okay. No, because I was just I was on there the other night doing some research, and it said that it was only putting out information in regards to like the school site information, like their address and locations, but not necessarily have any pertinent data relating to that. So I was just curious because this was an update on the SB 98. So I know that it's all tied to that. So thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Member Nguyen. Okay, well, thank you, Ms. Leon. I don't see any additional questions. Thank you for your report.
Well, thank you. Have a great evening.
Thanks, Ms. Leon.
Okay, and with that, we move to item 12, which is a public hearing regarding sufficiency of instructional materials. And with that, we open the public hearing. Ms. Gutierrez, do we have any comments on this item?
Senator Martinez.
Thank you. So with that, we close the public hearing regarding sufficiency of instructional materials. And therefore we move to new business, which is first item is 13.1, resolution number 2021 .010, week of the school administrator. May I have a motion and a second to open this item, please?
I move that we open item 13.1 for discussion.
I second it.
Thank you. And Ms. Gutierrez, before staff presents, do we have any public comment?
Not on this item.
Okay, so I will hand this item to you, Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you, President Martinez. Principal Ingham Waters made reference to this resolution earlier in the agenda. And what this really is sort of public declaration of an appreciation for the unbelievable work of administrators. I can say that until I became a superintendent, I think I've deeply believed that being principal is the hardest job in the entire world. Now I'm rethinking that maybe superintendent is, but no, just kidding. I do think that being a principal is an unbelievably difficult job. The weight and the responsibility of taking care and ensuring the well-being of both students, staff, family. It's a tremendous thing. And it's also such an incredibly rewarding position. And I know this resolution not just calls out and celebrates principals, but other administrators as well. I don't know if board members have any questions, but after that, I think it'd be a great honor to read the resolution, assume if you choose to pass it.
Any questions for our superintendent from our board members? If not, I would entertain a motion and a second to approve the staff recommendation to approve resolution 2020-21.010.
President Martinez, are we going to do board docs or should we do raise of hand?
Is everybody logged into board docs?
Yes.
Okay. So let's do board docs. So first, thank you. So first the motion and the second, please.
I move to approve resolution number 2020-21.010.
Thank you. I have a second.
Sorry, I thought sorry, just for clarity, I thought Member Nguyen had already made the motion and Member Zhang.
Oh, sorry. So sorry, I needed to repeat so I apologize for that. Sorry, Member Zhang, it is a repeat of the motion on the table. Sorry, go ahead, Ms. Gutierrez.
Okay, the motion is that staff recommends the Board of Education approve resolution number 2020-21 .010 to honor Newark Unified School District administrators during the second full week of October, dates being October 12th to October 16th, 2020. Motion made by member Nguyen and second by member Jean. I will be
Thank you.
opening voting now.
Okay, I will ask student member Salemi for his vote, please. How do you vote?
Yes.
Student? Thank you.
Yes.
Okay,
And the student board member can also vote on board docs.
oh, he does have a login. I did not know that. Thank you. Next one, students, member Salemi, I will have you vote first. Thank you.
Just need your vote, President Martinez.
Oh, I thought I did that. I just hit yay. I saw it and I voted yay on it. Did not go through. Okay,
it might be slow, but if that's your
Okay.
vote, I can.
My vote
record.
is yes. I do see it that it's
Thinking?
loading. Yes, it's
Okay.
thinking. Okay, thank you.
So let me lock in the vote and then I'll show my screen.
Thank you.
So votes locked in. I have 4 yays, including student members. Resolution passes.
Thank you so much. Fantastic. Okay, and with that, I think it is a great idea that we go ahead and read the resolution. And I'd like to ask I'd like to ask our student member Salemi to start us off, please, with maybe the first, the title and then the first 2 whereas would be great.
Week of the School Administrator. Whereas leadership matters for California's public education system and the more than 6 million students it serves. And whereas school administrators are passionate, lifelong learners who believe in the value of quality public education. And
Member Nguyen, please.
Whereas the title school administrator is a board term used to define many education leadership posts: superintendents, assistant superintendents, principals, assistant principals, special education and adult education leaders, curriculum and assessment leaders, school business officials, classified educational leaders, and other school district employees are considered administrators. And whereas providing quality service for student success is paramount for the profession. And
Member Jean.
Whereas most school administrators began their career as teachers, the average administrator has served in public education for more than a decade. Most of California superintendents have served in education for more than 20 years. Such experience is beneficial in their work to effectively and efficiently lead public education and improve student achievement. And whereas public schools create with lean management systems across the nation, public schools employ fewer managers and supervisors than most public and private sector industries, including transportation, food service, manufacturing, utilities, construction, publishing, and public administration. And
Superintendent.
Whereas school leaders depend on a network of support from school communities, fellow administrators, teachers, parents, students, business, community members, board trustees, colleges and universities, community and faith-based organizations, elected officials, and district and county staff and resources to promote ongoing student achievement and school success. And whereas research shows great schools are led by great principals and great districts are led by great superintendents, these site leaders are supported by extensive administrative networks throughout the state. And
Ms. De La Cruz.
Whereas the state of California had declared the second full week of October as the week of the school administrator in Education Code 44015.1, and whereas the future of California's public education system depends upon the quality of its leadership. Now, therefore,
Ms. Saavedra.
Be it resolved by the governing board of the Newark Unified School District that all school leaders in the Newark Unified School District be commended for the contributions they make to successful student achievement. Congratulations.
Is it a silent clap? No, absolutely. We are very glad and proud to pass this resolution. To your earlier comment, Superintendent, you know, specifically the role of the superintendent, absolutely very difficult, as we are all seeing and we're learning together. But certainly to our site administrators, our district staff, all the folks that support the teaching that happens. You know, we are parents. We as parents are not easy. You know, I'm sure that they would love to be able to focus on our kids and continue to give them, but sometimes we as adults don't make it easy for you all. So thank you for your patience. Thank you for all your hard work. Thank you for everything that you do for our children and for our community and the leadership and role models that you are for us. So thank you so much.
Thank you. And a huge shout out to all our NUMA representatives and just a tremendous group of leaders. And it's an honor to be with them.
Thank you so much. Okay, and with that, we move to item 13.2, resolution 2020-21.011, sufficiency of instructional materials. I have a motion and a second, please, to open this discussion item.
I move that we adopt resolution 2020-21.011, declaring sufficiency of instructional materials for students.
I have a second.
I second.
Thank you. And Ms. Gutierrez, before staff presents, do we have any public comment on this item? 13.2.
No public comment.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so I will hand this over to you, Superintendent.
Thank you, President Martinez. And we do have here this evening our Director of Teaching and Learning, Mr. Dalowich. This resolution, or this item, comes up every year. It's a requirement that we ensure that we have sufficient materials for all our students at all our grade levels. I don't know, Mr. Dalowich, if you want to say a few words, and then we'll really turn it over to any questions that anyone has.
Sure. Good evening, members of the board. As Dr. Triplett mentioned, and as you may be aware, during each academic year and prior to the 8th week of school, districts must verify that each student has received sufficient textbooks and instructional materials. Education Code section 60119 states that sufficient textbooks or instructional materials means that each student has a standards aligned textbook or equivalent instructional material for use. This specifically applies to 4 core subject areas: language arts, mathematics, science, and history. Educational Services this year is verified with each school community, each principal, and the District Instructional Materials Center that indeed all sufficient instructional materials and textbooks, including online, have been provided to our students, and we can confidently recommend that we approve the sufficiency resolution submitted before you this evening. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Dalowich. Any questions or comments from our board members? I have a process question, Mr. Dalowich, and I apologize that I did not send this in advance. But just from a process perspective, I know that, you know, when we say we certify that we've got, so is it each site that does the initial certification? Is it the teachers, or is it the principal? How do we get that in it, you know, the serial certification, if you will?
Great question. So it is each principal. Each principal verifies with Educational Services. And then as the Director of Teaching and Learning, I verify with our Instructional Materials Center.
Thank you. That's the only question I had. Okay. And so with that, if there are no further questions or comments, Ms.
Actually,
Gutierrez, can you please repeat the motion on? Oh,
I
sorry.
do have, so when does this verification take place, and when do you account for like the order of materials prior to distribution during the new school year?
I missed the first part of that
Oh,
question.
sorry. I apologize. So my question is, so during the verification process, prior to the new school year, when does the ordering of materials usually take place, and that during that process?
So the ordering of materials actually begins early summer. Usually, typically in May, after our last curriculum council, we begin ordering materials, but we do have to verify enrollment numbers to get all of the materials correct. And then leading up to the first week of school, we begin the verification process with our principals.
Thank you. And I just wanted to say, I know that a lot of the teachers and on the school sites and at the high school, junior high, and staff have been busy at the beginning of the school year, you know, arranging and distribution days. And I just wanted to say, you know, that they did a really great job of making sure that they were reaching out to parents and making sure that all the students did get their materials. So thank you.
Absolutely. Especially the people on the front lines.
Yes,
Thank
definitely.
you. And I apologize, member, when I hadn't seen that you had a question, so I apologize. Member Zhang, do you have any questions?
No.
Okay, thank you. Okay, with that, Ms. Gutierrez, if you could repeat the motion, please.
Staff recommends the adoption of resolution 2020-21.011, declaring sufficiency of instructional materials for students. The voting has been made available for you guys. Hopefully this will come in sooner.
Okay, sorry, and that was me.
I got student member vote first.
Yes, I will. As soon as everybody votes, I can request his vote's already in, and I can.
Oh, got it.
Oh,
Okay.
Oh, actually,
Okay.
no, because it is symbolic. So I believe
His should be
his
okay,
is in. So if you want to call his vote, President Martinez, I'll let you
okay,
know what he said.
yes, student member Salemi, so you voted, correct?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So would you share that, Ms. Gutierrez?
Member Salimi voted yes, and Member Martinez, I have everybody else's vote. Yours is still probably pending. Is that correct?
I apologize.
Oh, it's in. It's in.
Okay.
Perfect.
Sorry, I apologize. I thought that I would see student member Salemi's first, so my fault there. We'll get this board docs voting.
No worries. I understand. And I will be locking in the votes. If you can see my screen, final resolution, motion made by member Zhang, second by member Nguyen, and 4 yes, with one member Rodriguez not being present.
Very good. Thank you so much. Okay, and just for expediency, if you're all okay, we will not be reading this resolution out loud. Okay, thank you. And next item is 13.3, which is board policy 1312.3 and administrative regulation 1312.3 uniform complaint procedures. And may we have a motion and a second on this item?
I move to approve board policy 1312.3 and administrative regulation 1312.3 uniform complaint procedures.
Okay.
I second.
Thank you, member Nguyen. Ms. Gutierrez, do we have public comment on this item?
No.
Sorry about that. I have a loud family today. Okay. And so no public comment. I apologize. So I will hand this over to you, Superintendent Triplett.
Thank you, President Martinez. So as you recall, last meeting, there was presentations by one of our directors around what we call FPM, the Federal Program Monitoring. So this is a follow-up to that. There was one item that we needed to follow up and make sure that we conducted a revision and then a vote from the board on. So I will turn that over to Ms. Saavedra, who can explain more about this item.
Thank you, Dr. Triplett. Yes, this is one of the findings, recommendations made by the FPM team, that although our board recently had adopted the updated regulations at the July 21st meeting, after further review, they realized that there was some information missing, which came the recommendation to go through the process again with the board for board approval in regards of uniform complaints and board policy and also administrative regulation. Tonight, we recommend this, although this is a first reading, we are recommending that the board agrees and approves the recommendation as it is.
Okay, thank you, Ms. Saavedra. Any questions from our board members on this board policy?
I don't have any.
I see none as well. I don't have any as well. I don't see any others. So Ms. Gutierrez, if you can please repeat the motion.
Staff recommends the Board of Education approve board policy 1312.3 and administrative regulation 1312.3 uniform complaint procedures, with a motion made by member Zhang and second by member Nguyen. Voting has been made open. Please send in your vote.
Thank you. And student member Salemi, in the spirit of getting your verbal, if I can hear your vote, please.
Yes.
Thank you. And Ms. Gutierrez, did you get my vote as well? Okay, very good. Thank you.
Votes locked. I have motion by member Zhang, second by member Nguyen, 4 yeas with 1 not present.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you, Ms. Gutierrez. And thank you, Ms. Saavedra, for bringing this forward. Okay, and so next item is consent agenda personnel items. I'm sorry, 14.1. May I have a motion and a second to approve?
I move to approve item 14.1 personnel reports.
Thank you. I can second, so I will second. Okay. And so we will call for a vote here. I'm wondering did we lose member Zhang?
Yeah.
I believe we might. Okay, so we have to
wait for his vote.
Yes, we will hold on.
So
Okay, we got you back.
yeah, so
Member
it
Zhang.
there's an interruption.
No worries, no worries. I've been having that issue. So we're on voting for personnel report. Member Nguyen moved, I second it. So if we can go ahead and vote. You have all votes, Ms. Gutierrez?
Okay, motion carries with 3 yeas and student member Salami not voting for personnel item and member Rodriguez not being present.
Very good. So we move to item 15, which is consent agenda non-personnel items. And this is the item where there were 3 items pulled. So the motion would be to approve 15.1 through 15.5. May I have a motion and a second, please?
I move to approve item 15.1 to 15.5.
Should we ask if there's public comment?
Oh, I apologize. Sorry. Are there, yeah, thank you. Are there public comment, Ms. Gutierrez, on any of those items, 15.1, 15.5?
No public comment.
Okay. Okay, thank you.
I'll second Member Zhang's motion.
Thank you, Member Nguyen. Okay, and with that, we'll open voting. And student member Salemi, how do you vote?
Yes.
And if you can just give me 1 second,
No worries. Do you rather us take a verbal if you're having some?
Let's do a verbal for this one because I'm going to figure out how we can condense all of them on board docs. So I apologize for that one.
Okay, no worries. Member Nguyen, how do you vote?
Yes.
Thank you, Member Zhang.
Yes.
And my vote is yes as well. So consent agenda items are approved. Thank you. And with that, we move to item 16, which is Board of Education Committee reports, announcements, requests, and additional discussion. So we'll start with committee reports. I know that there were a couple of the committees that met. One was the SELPA, Mission Valley SELPA, and if I could ask you, Superintendent, to give a brief report on that.
Certainly, thank you, President Martinez. So the SELPA did meet, and as most of you know, that's related to special ed services. And one thing, I think the biggest thing to note from that is they did talk about districts that are in need of putting together a plan to address some disproportionality in achievement of with IEPs as in relationship to general ed students. Our district does have some disproportionality that we need to address, and so that was named as something that we are obligated to put together as a plan for how to address that. The good news is that the surrounding districts around us, they're in a much more, for lack of a better word, severe category where they actually have greater disproportionalities that they need to address. So while we're certainly not proud of any disproportionality, we're also really glad that we're moving in the right direction. And we will be putting together a plan, I believe it's due in December, for how to continue to try to do better with relationship to serving students with IEPs.
Thank you for that, Dr. Triplett. I actually joined for part of that meeting. I had to leave early. Part of the meeting that I was there for is we had to vote on the budget. So that was one of the key action items. One of the interesting things, to your point about the disproportionate, or the what's the term? It's the anyway, but it's a proportionality issue in terms of our students with IEPs. And it was interesting to see, for example, in New Haven and Fremont, when you get to a certain point of, where you're assessed that it's beyond a certain level, you actually have to set aside some of your budget for some social part of the SELPA budget, if you will, and it's something that actually has to set aside in addition to the regular amount. And maybe it was my very first meeting, so I'm trying to share a little bit about it because it was a really big learning for me. Like I said, it was my first meeting there, so I do look forward to our director of special ed to bringing forward a report that does help continue to educate not just the board, but all of us and the public around just all the effort that goes in, in terms of making sure that we are allocating the resourcing to our special ed kids. And again, also though, recognizing impact to some of the financial strain that it does put on the district. So again, just very a lot of learning in the short hour that I was there. So I apologize, I didn't do a better job at reporting. I'll try to do a better job next time. So thank you for that. I think the other main committee report, the only other one is regarding the consolidation committee. And I believe, Member Wynn, you were going to do a quick report. Yeah.
Yes. The School Consolidation Advisory Committee met on September 24th. During that meeting, we approved the minutes from the prior meeting on September 15th. There was a presentation on facility information and a great discussion amongst the committee members. The committee reviewed the scores against the adopted criteria. This time around, based on committee member recommendation, our facilitator had pre-populated some of the numbers for the criteria in terms of the criteria that were discussed for facilities. And then during the discussion, the committee also agreed to have the same set of criteria scoring that excluded portables from the capacity data. So, and then, which was, I think several members in the committee felt strongly that we needed to have two sets of data, one comparing the capacity against those criterias, and then another set that excluded the portables against those criterias. And then our next meeting is on September 8th, and it's from 6 to 8. I hope more community members can join us. It's going to be on business services and others, community impacts and considerations. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And I think you meant to say October 8th versus September 8th.
Oh yes,
No,
October 8th. Sorry.
I know we're all in. It feels like it's still September. I think another, given that we are giving these reports to, in this case, just the only other member Zhang. I know that we are still targeting superintendent to go take the process through through all the different modules, if you will, with the committee, with the intent of bringing an initial report to the board. We'll call it as a first reading in early November. Is that correct?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so it is in a in terms of getting to that decision point, we are trying to stay to schedule, just given that one of the big points that superintendent made in the committee is that the process is a long process. It's a 6 to 12 month process in the sense that we have to make the decision as to which schools we would be looking at for consolidation, and then the real heavy lifting of the planning to take the community through the transition really begins. So I think that was a really good, point, because there were some questions about, shouldn't we be having more time to make that decision, given that sense of 6 to 12 months? Well, the decision is a part of the process, but not the complete process. So I thought that was a, a very good clarification that you made, Superintendent. Anything else? Any questions? Okay. With that, we move to any board announcements or requests. So we'll start with student member Salemi.
Yeah, and I apologize because I meant to have mentioned this during Dr. Triplett's report, but um, I know we're not jumping right back into school, and we're in a good place right now in terms of safety, as you had mentioned. But I just thought it was important that maybe in future meetings that we have a clear look at not necessarily the general plan of going back, but on things like the exact numbers and in terms of protective equipment, COVID testing, procedures if someone tests positives, and how our classes look, essential staffing and adequate ventilation in each classroom. And the reason I'm asking is because I understand we all want to go back to school, myself included, but as a student and thinking of our families, I really think we need a reassurance and a clear look of, the safety and health aspect of returning to school. And then just a quick question. I know you're assembling the equity task force, and I was wondering if you guys were going to include the students on that task force. And that's all.
Thank you, student member Salemi.
President Martinez, should I respond at all, or should I hold?
Well, those are typically for future for the next meeting. But if you have a quick response regarding, I imagine the last point regarding students, I think I'm okay. I think we're okay as the board if you respond to that.
Okay. Second question, yes. Yeah,
Thank you.
absolutely. Yeah, and we're just starting to build that task force. So yeah, thank you, board member Salemi. We'll definitely want to loop back and communicate to the whole board really where we're going, but for sure engaging students in that.
And thank you. And I know student member Salemi will keep us on our toes with regard to this item. So thank you very much, student member. Member Jean?
Just want to confirm that next school board meeting, we're going to have a study session on the Figma report, right? And that study session will include, I guess, resolution 1774, which is the resolution that we borrow the 4 million plus from Fund 17, the general fund, right? And how the board should proceed with that, whether we are paying back, what will be the timeline that to pay back, or are we paying only a fraction of them back?
Yes, thank you, member Jean. Yeah, that is part of the plan for that study session.
Okay.
Thank you. Anything else, member Jean?
No.
Okay, thank you. Member Nguyen.
No, just to echo what Member Zhang had brought up in regards to study session, not specifically about the FICMAP, but I think that I know that we've, missed a couple, and I really hope that when we continue future board meetings that we do hold ourselves accountable to holding those scheduled study sessions, because there are items and that are still pending that we would love to have just open discussions about. So I just wanted to remind us that we should do that. Thank you.
Thank you, member Nguyen.
Thank you. I just wanted to share and what's the right word? Celebrate with everybody that member Nguyen, well, no longer member, but our executive assistant, Ms. Gutierrez, and myself actually completed our last course in Masters in Governance training as a school board training that is offered. I think, over the many months and a total of how many days that we have dedicated to this, 10 days, right? 10 days of training this and on our time, and we're glad to do it because we have learned so much. And, I wanted to comment because, being on the board is one of the hardest things I've done. And I've had some difficult jobs, but man, it's one of the most rewarding to know that we are tackling some tough issues that haven't been tackled for a long time. We haven't been on the board for 15 or 16 or 20 something years, right? Right now, I am probably besides member Rodriguez, I'm the most senior member with 2 years. So one thing I wanted to say to our community is, no, we don't get it right every time when we call the agenda or when we read it. But one of the things we've learned in our training about the Brown Act, Brown Act is, yes, it is a law and
President Martinez, if you want to take a minute to allow your computer
to
so
buffer.
you get so we don't to buffer, yeah, so we don't miss your statement.
I guess you can try to turn off the video,
Okay.
only let the sound. to
Okay,
go.
okay, thank you. I could do that.
You're actually okay right now, so.
Okay, so I was on a roll. If you can still hear me.
Yes.
What I was saying is that one thing I can tell you about Member Nguyen, Member Zhang, Member and myself and Member Rodriguez is we are deeply committed to doing what we need to do for your kids and for you. And mostly like what I wanted to say is that we are learning, absolutely. We will not hide that. We are absolutely learning and we will not get every little rule right. But what we do and what we can commit to you is that every step of the way, if we're not sure, we seek guidance. We've met a lot of people that are training us and we are doing the best we can to play absolutely by the rules because we need to do right by you. And so that I just wanted to say that because it's not easy being on here up to here. And I always welcome, we always welcome community input, but I wanted to make sure that there is a balance of message. And I just wanted to say that, and absolutely, if any of you ever have any questions, you know, and respectfully reach out to us to engage, absolutely, we will make ourselves available to you. So again, thank you so much for tuning in and for listening and for providing the feedback. And again, we will continue to do the best we can by you and learn. There's so too much to learn, and we are committed to engaging in more training to make sure that we do a good job for you. So with that, I apologize if I got a little bit long-winded, but I'm very passionate about this item and being fair to our board members because they work very hard for you. And with that, I will hand it back to you, Superintendent Triplett, for some closing remarks.
Thank you, President Martinez. And I really appreciate your words. I just have to be honest. One of the reasons I accepted this position was because of this board. Because sometimes boards have a reputation of being extremely difficult or really not focused on the right things. And it's been very clear since before I even got here that this board is unique and special and very dedicated to doing right by the community. So I haven't sat in your seat, but I'm sitting here with you, and I get a little taste of the challenges that come with being in that position, and I really respect you all for all that you're doing. I don't have a lot else to say, just that you can expect us to come back on the 15th with a draft of the plans for reopening. And also, I really do look forward to engaging in the conversation with the board in the study session, because I think it's really important that we can continue to unpack the FCMAT report and the implications and the hard decisions that we know we really have to do in these next couple of years to right our financial situation and do right by the community. So I look forward to seeing you on the 15th.
Thank you so much. And with that, we move to adjournment. So Ms. Gutierrez, on this one, would you like us to do a vote, a verbal as well?
We can do board docs.
We can do board docs. Okay, perfect. Well, first, I would entertain a motion and a second to adjourn, please.
I move to adjourn the meeting.
I second.
Thank you.
Student member, I'm sorry, board member Zhang moves, student member Salemi seconds. And for a verbal student member, how do you vote?
Yes.
Okay. I don't see the vote invite. Am I the only one?
I haven't gotten it either.
We're keeping member. Oh, there we go. Excellent. We're waiting on you, Miss Gutierrez.
Motion passes with 4 yes.
Excellent. And with that, we adjourn at 9:15. And everyone have a wonderful evening. Thanks everyone for your hard work.
Thank
Bye-bye.
you. Have a good
Bye-bye.
night.
Good
Night.
night.
All right.